Hey everyone, welcome to the Mojo workshop. The event is going to kick off real soon with a reception. For an hour, we can just hang out in our virtual hall here, take a seat at the table, network, live video chat, table chat with people at your table. Thanks to sponsors like Filmocracy and the amazing prizes that have been donated to Mojo Awards, we've got an incredible event lined up for you. Itzel Sarmientos, a student journalist, won Best Documentary this year. You can see her film also in the screening room and meet with incredible, talented mobile journalists from around the world. Everything happens at the workshop through mojo.show. You go there and there's the festival map. You get onboarded and into this space really easily. You just got to make a couple logons and you'll be hanging out with me and Philip Bromwell and awesome people that are going to be presenting. Here's the schedule. Here's some of the professors. Here's where to find us. Join us, please, if you can. And greetings from the Smart Film School in Berlin, Germany. My name's Robb Montgomery. Welcome to Mojo Workshop, an annual online conference for mobile journalism by mobile journalism experts who will be joining us and sharing the latest and greatest tips and techniques, the behind the scenes stories that you don't often see when you see a great piece of mobile journalism. They're going to explain how they do what they do. And the way that we find speakers for these events and for the Mojo Awards is we just look at the winners. And so we're going to have many of the winners of the previous editions of this contest share their tips and tricks, their great secrets, if you will. We're going to get started right away. I just wanted to remind everyone what the Mobile Journalism Awards is all about. This is a fundraiser for the nonprofit. The nonprofit produces the Mobile Journalism Awards. This year's winner, unfortunately, could not join us, but here she is. Her name is Itzel Sarmientos. She's Mexican. She's a fantastic storyteller. She's a student, and she won Best Mojo Documentary this year. In this space, we can do a lot. We also are showing all of the finalist films from this year's edition in the screening room. So if you go to mojo.show, it is only during the event that we can do this. It is a private cinema for showing basically a little film festival. We're in the meeting room, and this is all possible, and it's basically a kickoff for the call for entries for the next edition, the third edition of the Mobile Journalism Awards. So that's what the workshop came out of, was the Mobile Journalism Awards event. That was made possible because of this amazing technology that we're using here, donated by the beautiful folks at Filmocracy in Los Angeles. I got an email earlier this year saying, hey, we see what you're doing and we want to support you. And I think that the founder of that will be coming onto the show probably towards the last session, maybe at the start of the last session, Paul June, because he's in LA. And so the time shift is a little more friendly to come in at the end of the show. But I want to thank him personally for donating this research. It's a very expensive technology we're using to do this virtual networking and to do all the recording and do basically an international program with these amazing people. We've got Philip Bromwell, Nico, Piro, and Marcelo Lagreze. And I probably did not say your name properly, my friend, but you'll get a chance to correct me. Nico is on the line, and Nico's truly the mobile journalist here. And so Nico is, at the moment, he's driving across the southern part of Italy. He is the correspondent. He is the special correspondent at RAI, the Public Italian Broadcasting System, working on foreign affairs topics. That means Afghanistan, Moscow, wherever there's conflict, there's Nico. He's reported extensively on Afghanistan. He's written 5 books. He's founded Mojo Italia, 4 years ago, which is the Italian Mobile Journalism Film Festival. And guys, I could spend the next hour going through Nico's resume, but I would rather just throw to Nico right now and let him share some of his expertise and what he's learning with his small cameras telling big stories. Nico?
Hi, Rob. Thank you for your invitation, and thanks to everybody for being watching this live or recorded. And basically, what I like of the mobile journalism community is the fact that, notwithstanding the fact that we are journalists, so we are in an environment which is very competitive. In the mobile journalism, let's say, sub ecosystem, a piece of the journalism ecosystem, there is a lot of cooperation, a lot of mutual support. We like to share, and I think that the best part of the mobile journalism world is the fact that all of us that believes that sharing. So we don't keep our own secrets, our own little secrets, but we try to share our knowledge, the thing we learn day by day, because mobile journalism is also this thing, is learning and experimenting, is like driving a car, but putting your hands into the engine to make it better, or to make it more, to have more for the terrain you are going to drive on. So I think that basically mobile journalism is about a lot more than about um, the gear. But what I would love to start, not from my latest video production. I would love to spend a couple of minutes about my the recent experience I had. As Robert said, Afghanistan is my turf, is my topic. By the way, is also a place I love, and I miss it every day of my life, honestly, even if it can sound strange to you. But this is uh, what happened to me and to many other people who have been down there. And so when the 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 history in Afghanistan took another sharp turn on the 15th of August, I was in Moscow, and I was working for. Me. We have my company as a bureau in Moscow, so very often I go there to look at another part, another side of our big world. And so of course I was, extensively used from my company, the different channels, different news show, talk show, and so on, as a sort of analyst of the Afghan situation. But I felt, considering the fact that I have and I have a lot of sources, I had a lot of news. I wanted a big bunch of information I wanted to share to help people understanding what was happening in uh, in Kabul and around the country. So uh, my I began to use my Twitter account mostly as the pivotal point of my social media. I began writing threads about Afghanistan, usually 20, 22 tweets every day, linked, chain linked in a thread. Um, and it was incredible because I gained more than I gained more than let's say 11,000 followers in a few days, and in the last month I passed from 16,000, to more than 20,000 followers. And why is this important? Because I think that with a mobile phone, uh, you can really go deeper into topics which usually they are not considered topic for a big audience, but you can push these topics, speculate on them, articulate your thinking, pushing out videos and pictures and maps, and all these different pieces of multimedia information. And my latest experience, which really surprised me, it's a proof, it's a evidence of the fact that um, there is a room for, the old media and old media journalists to push, to sell, to spread our production, our products from the small screens to the from TVs to from TV screens to the social media. And I want to just show to you our. Sorry, I want to. I pressed quit. I didn't want to quit. I'm sharing the screen. I want to show you the. This is my. I don't know if you can see. Yes, this is my Twitter account. Usually, one thread. No, I mean, this guy is the one who invited me today, and just to let you see how our thread goes. It, it's out every day around 9, 10 o'clock, 8 sometimes. Today I began with the video of this girl who's sending a big message about being allowed back to schools, and it goes on and on. In this, in the first three tweets, I translated the message of the girl in Italian, and I have also I put together also different sources. This is a very interesting Al Jazeera with an explanation of this art. Uh, Here it's an highlight of this very interesting interview by Katie Gannon from the a few details about what was back in time the first time this a picture from the streets today in Kabul and so on. This is a tweet by a French guy which likes war and wars which of course he will never fight, but he likes to promote wars even if he should be a philosopher. Um, so I think it's a very interesting format. Of course, getting back to me, of course, I think that it's working because I nailed the right format, but also because of reputation. Because I mean, it explains things that you can't explain in a 2 minute long piece for your news bulletin, and so it's a very interesting way of going deep into things which are usually not in a bad way, but very there is a lot of hyper simplification in the mass media. I want to show you something. This is I want to show you a few things as of course. I mean, first of all, let me share the screen again. Uh, okay. I hope you see my Vimeo.
Yep, we got it.
Yes, okay. On Vimeo, I have my page is Nico is vimeo.com/ Nico Piro, NICOPIRO, and that's a 5 minute long short documentary or short whatever you wanna short video whatever you wanna call it. By Incidentally, it won the first Mojo Award run by Robert, and won also the Dublin Smartphone Film Festival. It was selected for the Cinephone in Spain last week. Has been selected for Mina and for no for Mina and in Australia. I hope you can watch it. It's very interesting. The only gear I added to the phone was the iris system by Polar Pro. uh, I because I shot manually with Filmic Pro. I needed to keep the frame rate around 50, so I needed to filter the light, which in Kabul is very the same is for Greece or South Italy is very hard. It's such hard light, so you need a good filter. But what's good also of a mobile phone is not just that allow you to go tactically on the low profile. That's the best way not to look like a target. In the same days I was taking those pictures, I was covering those pieces of news in the capital. There was another crew from a big TV network in Europe, a four people crew. They were going around in three SUV with eight people of eight armored guards, and it was impossible for them to stand as I did in the streets taking picture of ordinary people. I mean, doing their living their life. So low profile is always a key, a tactical key, and is also a tactical tool, and it's also a narrative element. But there is something else for the crisis area which I like of smartphone, especially in times of pandemic. It's a great tool. I want to show you something quickly because I know that I'm consuming too much time. Sorry, I'm Italian. We talk too much. It's not the first red zone I have been. This is the trailer of my documentary I shot in 2015 using a very pioneeristic my mirror time and GoPro. And this is it's called Killer Disease. You can watch just the trailer. And
Nico, thank you so much. We do in
sorry
this
guys, I
track
don't know
have
if I talk too much, but
no.
I don't.
It's okay. If we could switch now to Marcelo, and if did you want to introduce him, or did you get to know him, or would you like me to, Marcelo?
uh
Hi,
that
guys.
he explained me how to share my screen, so he's a lot
Okay.
better than me. And Rob, just one thing: sooner or later, I need a workshop from you about your incredible, I mean, video mixing. I mean, control room, which is so important for us. Thank you, guys. I'm
You're
staying here.
welcome. Here it is. Here it is. You can come to the Smart Film School. This is my work from home. So be careful what you ask for. It gets a little out of control. Thank you. We could spend all day just with Nico. We could just probably sell ticket just a day with Nico. Man, he's got so many great stories. And it was so true, you know. And you also have done some conflict reporting, Marcelo. You are Argentinian or are you Chilean? I was seeing that you were born in Argentina.
Yeah. Hi. How are you guys? And I'm from Argentina. I born in Argentina in Cordoba, and then I lived my childhood in Patagonia. Uh, it's so at south, so south, and later come back to Cordoba to study cinema. And then for things of life and work, I'm now living in Santiago of Chile.
Well, fantastic. And you were again a semifinalist. It had to go to the third round of voting. We had to get a whole new judge who looked at your film and Itzel Sarmientos's film, and it was just like if the wind blew slightly in another direction, you would have won. It was just fantastic work that you did, and that's why it's my great honor to
Thank
not
you.
only beg people to come, but to invite winners of the competition, because it is a really rigorous competition. I don't judge it. I find experts to judge it.
Thanks so much.
Actual journalists judge this contest, and that's what sets it apart. And I hope that hopefully it's a good standard. It's a good club to be in, and we wanted to welcome you. if you haven't seen his film, make sure to tell people where you can see it. Of course, you can see it in the screening room today on the festival.
This is Utopia of the Outrage, and it's a short documentary about the social movement in Chile that becomes in 2090, and now the final decision later this social movement have to do a new constitution in Chile. It's a very strong moment here because for first time in Chile now we will have a new constitution made by all the originary people and a lot of new things that not have in the first constitution. But the documentary only takes the fight in the streets between the peoples who wants to say something, to say dignity, we want dignity, and how this people is protected by kids keeping away the police to don't take out from this place. The place is in the middle of Santiago de Chile, is in the heart of the city. But like Nico says, for me it was so important to capture these moments, capture these feelings and textures with my iPhone, in this case with this iPhone 7, because we have a lot of people from all around the world with big cameras keeping with us and trying to record these moments, but it's different the feeling and it's different the acting of the people when they see a big camera than if they see an iPhone, and I think a mobile. Sorry, I think this is the big the most important thing about this documentary. And I come from the artist area. I'm filmmaker, and I come from artist area, and I'm doing publicity, and I think this make a different point of view than it's not a reporter, a journalist, 100% situation like I told in the history. I try to tell in a artistic way, and trying to do to the words can spokes and be reflected in a poetry way, you know. That's I try to do. I don't know, later you can see this work, but it's very good because I've been selected in like Robb said, in the journalist mobile, and I win in Russia mobile filmmakers. Now I win the Cinephone in Spain, and it was a surprise for me, you know, because I'm not a journalist, but I'm doing a documentary, and this is a mix, and I like so much because it's for me it's a mix that I like to do, because I try to spoke about a point of view, but not to trying to say, hey, this is the truth, you know. I'm trying to speak, and everybody can take his own conclusion in a certain way, because it's not too possible when you are showing something in an image. But I'm trying to do this contrapunto. I don't know how you say in English this, but this when the some looks like funny but it's terrible. It's trying to this mix do this short, you know. And now I'm doing the same, but with another. I'm just finished, I think 1 month away, about the COVID, but in a point of only see the subway empty, and trying to do like in Utopia of the Outrage in a poetry way at the same time. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what more to say because it's trying to. I'm trying to explain. I'm not very good speaking in English, and I'm not a teacher.
I
It's for
know.
me it's difficult, but I'm trying to do my best. You know.
And thank you so much for showing up. I mean, I think Itzo was also a little overwhelmed. You know, I did get her into this space one-on-one, and she's really charming. And look, here's the thing about what you're saying. Don't feel like an imposter. Yeah, okay, so you're not a professionally trained journalist. But the point of journalism is that even ordinary citizens can commit acts of journalism. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you saw this with, you know, the George Floyd filming that was done by the girl who kept the camera rolling. Sometimes that's all it takes. Okay. But
Yeah.
it's, you know, that is an act of that is a valuable piece of documentation, you know. Okay. She may not have all the skills to tell all the stories. You've got obviously a storyteller skill. And that's what's been really exciting when we're trying to figure out what is the best of mobile journalism. That's why we look to film, you know, documentaries, things that this busted through the barriers for. It not only makes you be able to work more clandestine and much more in the photojournalism way, where you're trying to not draw attention to yourself. It's really fascinating. It also, for television people, it's kind of a format that doesn't have a lot of rules. And if you've ever worked in television, particularly broadcast, everything has rules. Everything's very strict. We're going to hear about how Philip breaks out of that because they just have these tested and true, you know, tried and tested formats like the news package that you know, that haven't changed a whole lot since they were invented. But film is always being reinvented, and it's people like you who are doing it. So thanks for joining, and thanks for sharing. Hang around. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you'll enter it again. Philip, are you on the line? We started out in the south of Italy. We've moved over to the west coast of South America, to Santiago, Chile. And now we're going to a Chile place. Is it Chile in Dublin, or is it?
You're joining me in the somewhat less glamorous surrounds of my attic in Dublin, in Ireland, where it's a grey day. And but this has been certainly during COVID times, this has been where I've done all my work. And look, a bit about me. I'm my actual title these days is Digital Native Content Editor at RTE News, which is the national broadcaster in Ireland. And I actually lead a small team of mobile journalists in our newsroom. And the team creates original content, original stories for all our platforms. So that's television, radio, online, and all the social media platforms. And whether by accident or by design, this team is built entirely around mobile devices. We shoot on mobile, we edit on mobile, and more often than not, we think about how the stories look on mobile, because we know these days that huge swathes of the audience are finding this content on their mobile device. That's the device that they consume much of their news content on. So what my team also does is thinks about how we repurpose content or how we create original content so that it looks good on a mobile device. Now, as I said, my team shoots entirely on mobile, edits largely on iPads these days because we prefer the extra real estate that an iPad gives you for editing on. I have to say, like a lot of journalists, it's iPhone based. Although I think when we're discussing mobile journalism, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, a lot of the principles and the best practices can apply to the Android world as well. So sometimes it can feel certainly when journalists start talking about mobile journalism, it's all iPhones. Now, we use iPhones, but does it mean that people have to use iPhones? I don't think so. Anyway, I myself, actually, I was looking back on this. I shot my first TV news report on an iPhone in 2014, which at the time seemed extraordinarily innovative of me. But in retrospect, all I was doing was telling a story with a different kind of camera. And I've tried to maintain that sort of philosophy and principle behind all of my work ever since. This is just a different kind of camera. I was lucky. I did a lot of video journalism before I actually started shooting on a phone. But everything I learned in video journalism, I bring to my mobile journalism. And I've shot and edited countless stories on mobile ever since. And I suppose, the theme of this session, what Rob asked me to talk about, was innovation. Now, it's probably the worst keynote presentation you've ever seen, but innovation is at the heart of what we do as storytellers, as news gatherers, particularly in the mobile space. I mean, my setup is not hugely complicated, iPhone, shoulder pod, rig attached to a small DSLR type tripod. In this instance, I've attached a Shure mic as a kind of shotgun mic. I don't have much else. I sometimes use one of these guys. It's a Rode mic. It's a wireless mic. But basically, one of the joys of mobile journalism for me is, yes, I have innovated but I'm innovating with very little. And I think that's the beauty and the power and the potential of what we do, is that these days technology has allowed not just people like me who are paid to do this, to tell stories. It allows anyone, because the technology allows us to do it. And I think anyone can pick up a camera. We see this every day. Anyone can pick up a camera and create content, can create powerful stories. And the technology is facilitating all that. What's incumbent on us is to use the technology and try and push it. And I think in my team and what I've done, we've pushed what the technology can do. We've shown what it can do. This kind of rig here is exactly what I would have used to shoot the film that actually was very generously awarded as the winner in one of the categories of the Mobile Journalism Awards. And if I can, I'm just going to try and share my screen so that we can have a look at that film. So this was a film which I shot during the height of, I suppose, the pandemic here, where we were in a lockdown again. And as we all know, the pandemic has changed all our lives. And one of the things we've returned to time and time again on my team is reflecting how people's lives have changed. And just, I suppose, more often than not, taking snapshots of stories which kind of capture a moment in time, because these are extraordinary times. We're probably never going to tell a story like this in our life again. It's the biggest story as journalists, as storytellers we're ever going to get to tell. And in this instance, this was just one of those, I suppose, moments in time. And it involved, the story is of an Irish artist. And he usually travels the world. In normal times, he would be jet setting around the world, from galleries to exhibitions and openings and so forth. But obviously during the pandemic, life changes, everything stops. And because he wasn't able to travel anymore, because he wasn't even able to go beyond 2 kilometers at one stage, what he did, he took to his roof and he painted what he could see. So in many respects, the pandemic forced him to find the beauty that was around him, when most of his career he would have been traveling all around the world. Anyway, I want to show you this film. It's called Paint It from the Rooftops. And if I can share my screen, let's see if we can make this work.
With lockdown, like everybody else, wasn't allowed to venture outside the door, basically. When I have that freedom that I would normally have, I got a bit frustrated. Anyway, the wife says, maybe you should go on the roof and paint. So I took her advice and came up. Not being able to paint is like, it'll be torture. So getting up here in many ways was my savior. For me, it was like the birds were whistling, there was no traffic. You know, I'd look over the edge here and people waving up to me, getting my attention. They'd be going like, well done, keep it up. So there was this kind of, the man is on the roof again, you know, as one guy said. I wouldn't be painting Dublin these months, like this time in the summertime. I'd be either in Croatia, Italy or France, which I was invited to those places this summer to paint. And then to Berlin, getting ready for my show. So I wouldn't have been in Dublin, I would have been gone. So in many ways, I got familiar with Dublin again. There was a great throwback from it that I wasn't expecting. People commissioned me to do paintings of like a particular building or their house or wherever else, or they might just want to buy a picture I had, but they were kind of like zooming in on the pictures that I painted in the lockdown, and they wanted a picture that was painted at that time to mark the occasion. They said this is history in the making, and they wanted, but also it was to make them feel good, that there was a feel-good factor in it, in the sense of they had a piece of art coming into their lives, which I find myself as an artist even, it enriches your life. In a dark time for people, to bring that light into their lives, you know, it's important as well.
It played okay?
Yeah, I could see it anyway, but I'm familiar with it anyway, so I don't need to see it again. But look, I mean, I suppose, as it said on the tail of that, shot with Filmic Pro, edited in LumaFusion. And yes, we're all innovators in this space because we're all using the technology. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was, you know, imagination as well. So if you marry innovation with a bit of imagination when you're storytelling, you get the best stories. And I think one of the things that mobile journalism has given me is that every time I do a story, it asks me to use my imagination. Yes, like I said, I'm innovating, I'm using the technology, but the joy and the challenge every time is, what imagination can I bring? So in this instance, in the story you saw there, you would have seen there were some shots which weren't with an iPhone. They were with one of these, a 360 camera. And I just think for us, well as now, we're in this marvelous, unprecedented and very privileged position where we have all these tools available to us that allow us to create these really, that story is not an important story as such, not like Nico's work, but it is a moment in time, and it is a nice, interesting human story. And yet it was done with an iPhone, and it was done with a fairly cheap 360 camera. And these were things, when I was working as a television journalist 7 or 8 years ago, I wouldn't have thought were possible. Yet now, here I am, not only doing it myself, I'm leading a team who are also doing it. And I'm talking to you guys who are also doing it in your every corner of the world. And we see that, and this is something that Nico touched upon at the start of his presentation, that it's growing. You know, there are people like me, like you guys, everywhere. And we're all using this technology. We're all telling stories. We're all innovating. But we're also all using our imagination. And then the final thing that I wanted to say in this worst keynote presentation of all time is that if you have innovation, imagination, and take some inspiration from what everyone else is doing. That's how you become better. And I think this is why events like this are really important, because they give us the chance to look at what we're all doing. We can learn from each other, we exchange ideas, and this space has always been very democratic. Again, Nico talked about that, and I think that's where its strength is, and that's where its future is. So thank you for having me, Rob, and on with the rest of the show.
While you were speaking, I also made a very expensive keynote graphic. No, I think that the creativity, if it's not a C word, but that's ultimately the result when you multiply those 3 I words, and you take a lot of care. A story like that, I would always be asked, and so my students ask when I showed it to them, because I often just show my stuff because I know what went right, what went wrong, how long it took, how it changed. So I'm going to ask you on their behalf, how much time did you spend with that subject to get what we call an observational narrative? In other words, you're never on camera, you're not doing any scripted parts. You had to get that guy to a point where he just could tell his story, and it came out so naturally. And that was a lot of work, I imagine. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It is a curious example, I suppose, in some respects, but you touch upon something which we always talk about as a virtue of mobile journalism. The fact that you are it's a much more natural situation to be for a subject, I think, generally, where there's one person with one small camera there, as opposed to maybe 2 or 3 people with a big camera, and maybe there are lights and stuff like that. So that kind of more intimate way of working does lend itself to this kind of story, because it's less invasive right from the start.
Yeah.
Then I think you rely upon your own human skills to kind of develop a bond in a very short amount of time with your subject. You have to earn their trust. You have to work with them. You have to think about, I always usually say to my subjects, this is about me getting the best possible film that I can, but also that you feel you've got the best possible film for you as well. So you kind of establish that bond at the start. And I think I would have spent an afternoon with Jared, who's the artist.
Yeah.
Again, one of the beauties of this way of working is nobody's taking my crew away from me. This is how newsrooms work. Generally, the camera operator is available for a couple of hours, then he has to go to his next job. That's not an issue for me. You're right, I do care. I care about every story I do, even at this juncture of my career where I've been doing this for 20 plus years. Every story I do is crafted. I do agonize, maybe I shouldn't, but I do agonize over every shot, every edit, every line. They are my I don't want to over exaggerate here, but every story is your baby. You bring it into the world, and you want it, and that's what you do, and you try to craft it. And a lot of news content is generally made by committee. The news editor says, you do this story, you work with that guy, he's going to shoot it for you. Then you come back and you go and work with the VT editor, he's going to edit for you. Maybe
you're in a factory. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you get to a position where you get good at this and you can tell the stories that you want to tell on your terms and do them really well, A, I think you'll find it a hugely enjoyable experience. But B, your employers are going to love you because you're not tying up any resources anymore. They know they can get great content from you, original content, and just a different way of working, which, let's face it, the pandemic has, in any workplace anywhere around the world, has encouraged workplaces and offices and organizations to think differently as to how we do things. We as mobile journalists have been thinking differently for several years. So in terms of it's been said before, it's worth saying again. When people talk about mobile journalism, yes, it means shooting on mobiles, editing on mobiles, but it also means having the mobility of thought, the mobile mindset, that you're willing to do this, that you're willing to give it a go. Because if you have that, that's a great starting point.
Right. But is there an I word for that?
Well,
we could scribble one down.
It starts with I. It starts with the person. It's, you know, you have to have that. You do have to have that willingness to give it a go.
I've got it, actually.
Okay.
See if you agree. See if you agree.
A quiz.
I don't have the red marker. We didn't work this out in rehearsal, but instinct.
Instinct, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's what I found. It's like all my instincts as a photojournalist. I was a photojournalist in the 80s. I transmitted my first news photo for the Associated Press as a student journalist with an LD transmitter. I don't know if you know what that was. You used to have to take the phone apart and attach 2 leads to it, and you had a little drum scanner, and you put your photo and the caption on it, and 8 minutes later, it was transmitted over slow speed. I have all the skills as a street photographer came back when I started using small cameras about 15, 20 years ago. It just, like you said, it just evolved from what we were doing as video journalists, the backpack journalists, and now it's just the front pocket, you know, of my cargo pants is where I have my gear, which is good because as the older you get, you know, the less gear you have to carry, the longer you can carry it. So that's one of the inspirational.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're all doing different things in this space, but we're all, like I said in the chat just then, we are all innovating. We are hopefully all inspiring as well. And I think mobile journalism, if I look back on my experience, once upon a time, I was the only person in my organization who was actually going out and doing this and creating, you know, broadcast content. Now I manage a team. Yeah, it's growing. It's we'd perhaps all like it to grow quicker. But I think we've gone way beyond this being an experiment anymore. I think this is this is not the future anymore. This is the present. And I think but if you look at where you had your entrance for the awards from, you know, there are films coming from every part of the world, different films, different kinds of films, drama, documentary, short form, music video, fashion, you know,
and every one of them has a shot on mobile category. And that's how this started out. As you know, I was starting to do some more personality profiles. I was always making films as I was doing a teaching in Helsinki, and I was shooting a little every day. And by the end of the week, I had enough, and I was just shooting it for the classroom, just to demonstrate with. And ended up before leaving there, getting that subject to look at the pictures I shot and just speak to the microphone. And I closed the door and left. And then I got the soundtrack to my most award-winning film. So that would have never had that as a forethought. That kind of storytelling that process would have never have emerged out of a story planning meeting. You know what I'm saying? And I think you're right. The frontier of the improv, or, you know, just the freedom to explore a story subject with the right skill set that you've got. You know how to do interviews, you know how to shoot carefully. Your films are very patient, and they're meticulous. I enjoy. It's a masterclass in shot making. And nothing feels rushed. I mean, your film, sometimes my films are like, I'm going to take you ziplining to the world's highest treehouse, and it's hang on tight, come with me. And I like doing those kinds of stories, but yours have this beautiful pacing to them. And you use music. How is it that you're using music? Do you have copyright-free music? That's another question students ask a lot.
Well, that film is actually repurposed from, that was actually done as a more conventional package with narration and so forth.
Okay.
And then what I was able to do, because I had the content, I just thought, you know, he would actually make a nice self-narrated piece, and then used a bit of music just to add to the mood. You know, music is not something that would normally infiltrate a news bulletin. kind of editorializes, even on this is a non sensitive piece anyway. But in this instance, I use LumaFusion. The team uses LumaFusion. Through LumaFusion, we've subscribed to Storyblocks. So we actually use a lot of, when we're doing packages for social media, nowadays we have, we end up doing various versions of our story. We could do the same story could be done for television, for radio, for online, and for social. And certainly the concept of social video, the medium of social video, very much has music as part of its DNA, basically.
Even though part of the medium, absolutely.
Yeah, even though often we know that a lot of people aren't actually listening when they're looking at a story on social media, but it's there as for those that are listening. It's just a conceit of social video, I suppose. So I like I said, we subscribe to Storyblocks, which is available through. It's tied into LumaFusion, which I have to say, the LumaFusion have, I think, really revolutionized what's possible in mobile journalism. Just as an app to be able to do so much on an editing front and on a sort of using graphics and so much. It's a desktop editing experience that's now available.
I'm just demonstrating it here for those who haven't seen it. This is I mean, we do animations you can build in this thing. It's just like having a pro desktop app,
it's literally the desktop editing experience on your own personal device,
and it can work with the video clips from the Insta360. It can work with drone footage, as I showed here. And so it just eats everything, and now it eats ProRes. We've got a few minutes left, and more people have joined. It's great. We've got Flores, we've got Jonathan made it in. We had registration problems with our ticketing platform. That would be my feedback for our wonderful sponsors who can't complain. They gave us this space at no charge. But we are glad that they were able to make it. And if you have any questions, there's a Q&A panel over to the right. There's a little blue icon, like a little bubble, and you click on that and it'll open up and you can see there's a Q&A. So if you have any questions, pop them in there. I want to thank Nico, Marcelo, Philip for talking and sharing behind the scenes innovation stories. Hey, I never did get an answer though. How many visits to the artist did you have to make? Was it all done really in an afternoon, or was it more than one?
It was done all in one afternoon. We don't have the luxury of, look, it was all in the one space. So once I was there,
that's really, really impressive. So,
like I said, that film you're seeing was a re-edit at a later date. But I mean, we don't have. I often look at the people who are working in documentaries and wonder what it's like to be able to immerse yourself in a story like that and have that. All my life I've spent doing short form, be it for television or radio or online. It's always short. I never really go past 3 or 4 minutes. So when you know that you're only producing short form, you don't tend to spend huge amount of time with your subject. Although arguably in a perfect world, you would spend a lot more with them. Sometimes I think I'm crashing into people's lives, getting their story, and then crashing back out again. But that's what
it depends on the subject a lot too. I mean, or the topic that you're talking about as well.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone. Thanks again. Bless you, and thank you for joining. I hope you can stick around. We've got several more sessions coming up. We're going to go and out of this presentation, and we're going to pause, and then we'll kickstart it with 2 awesome presenters, one from Austria and one from Wales. I'll be right back. I'm Robb Montgomery. This is the Mojo Workshop.